I got another album review for you. Today I'll be covering Dangerous Woman by Ariana Grande. This is her third studio album, and it's many people's favorites. I'd say her most popular is either this, Sweetener, or Thank You Next. It's like a mix between the two, or three, I should say. And this is one of my favorite projects by her. I underestimated it at first, and I gave it a shot, and I think it's one of her best works. I don't It's not my favorite, but it's in the top 3. So it's pretty awesome, pretty nice. It has a lot of different musical flavors. It's got reggae, it's got obviously pop, it's got R&B, hip hop, dance pop, electro, and it's just got a lot of nice genres. Like it's almost like genre blender. It's got lots of stuff going on. Even a rock song with the title track. So there's a lot going on. Here's the album. I got the standard version. This is not a deluxe, so don't expect a review of that. But I think it's a great piece of her work. It was the point where she started to be more explicit, more edgy and risque with both her lyrics and her era. So this is definitely, I wouldn't say it's overtly sexual, but it is on the edge of that. It is teetering on that. Obviously, later albums get into that. I think Positions is definitely the most risque project she's done. But this was starting to go in that direction. But here's the look at the album. We'll talk about the music in a little bit. I wanted to cover the physical release first, and it's a really nice release. Obviously, if you take a look, most of her albums, i.e., the other two, are also very black and white heavy, but they put the color on the back of these for some reason. I just found that interesting. But yeah, the black and white is continuing with this one, which I'm fine with. I think Sweetener is the only one that's in full color. Everything else is just black and white, which is fair. Thank You Next has a little bit of color in it, but it's still, colorless for the most part. I find that interesting. But here's the album. You've got 12 tracks. This whole album runs 55 minutes, so it's almost 60. So it's a longer project, which I'm fine with. Here's the back. You can see different tracks. Nothing too special font wise, but I like it. It's obviously from Republic Records, and this album came out in 2016, a couple years after My Everything, which will get its own video shortly. And I think it's a great. I like the aesthetic for sure. The era is one of my favorites from her for sure. Here's the inside. We'll talk about the booklet in a minute. I actually want to cover the CD first, just briefly. It's got her font, a name in the font. It's got the Dangerous Woman logo, and it looks great with the. It's like all black, but it has the leather. It's made to look like leather or like latex. It's like meant to emulate her bunny mask in her outfit. It's actually really cool. It's got the track listing. It has a nice feel to it, nice texture, and it looks great. Disc is really cool. Has that edgy, not emo, but like dark vibe to it. Unfortunately, nothing on the back of that, but I like it regardless. The booklet so far for Ariana's albums, this is my favorite booklet so far. I've got 4 of her albums, missing 3 of them, but I've got 4 of the 7. So it's a nice little collection so far. This is her first album to be explicit. It's got the parental advisory right there. You can see explicit content, parental advisory, all that sort of stuff. So that was notable for the time. Obviously, most albums nowadays have this label, but back then it was kind of a big deal. It's kind of cool. I like the album name. You got basically it's just the cover, but there's actually a couple other versions of this, which is cool. And I like this kind of BDSM, I guess, sex, costume. It's kind of meant to be that. But it's just a cool look to it. It's meant to be her dangerous look, I guess. It's kind of a cool photo. I like it a lot. My favorite part about this booklet is definitely the pictures. There's no lyrics, so if you see here, it's just album song credits, which I think it's fine. Obviously, having lyrics would have been ideal, but I mean, I'd rather have the pictures than the lyrics, to be honest. There's one picture of her, and then there's another picture with her in her full bunny getup with the leggings, or I don't know what those are called, but You got the tail and the full ears, and her outfit in this era was pretty interesting. Definitely a unique era for her. There's more credits. Um, Lots of nice pictures. This one is her getting arrested for being a dangerous woman. And there's another, picture of her in silhouette almost with great lighting. This probably has the one of the best photo shoots of her career. There's her taking the mask off in front of the makeup table, I believe. And then her kissing. And then there's Into You. There's another track and her from a different angle. There's another picture right there. And if you want to pause at any time, you can, look at this. Hopefully, if you want to like pause at a specific point, you can. There's the second to last picture right there. And then here's the last one. I think this is actually one of the alternate covers, which is kind of cool. So that's kind of nice. And that's about it for the album pictures. Pretty nice booklet. It's a nice length. There's a lot of good photos of her. And I like this thank you note at the back with her fans and her team and her family. So that's kind of cool. And that's it for the physical release. I think it's really great. Definitely my favorite booklet so far. I feel like the other albums had kind of decent booklets, like decent inserts, but they weren't as I don't know. I feel like they weren't as nice as this one. I just would honestly, if there was not going to be lyrics in these booklets, I would rather have pictures. Like even if it's just a picture on each page, I'd be fine with that. I just think that would be really great. But regardless, that's the actual physical release. I'll just put it to here for now. And let's start with the tracks. Honestly, 90% of this album I love. Two or three of these songs I could get rid of, but we'll talk about that in a minute. We'll start off with Moonlight. That's the opener. This is a very light song. It's very pleasant. It's a beautiful kind of ballad. It's a romantic song about her wanting her love, or she loves when her lover calls her Moonlight. And it's a nice one. It has some great violin strings, and my favorite part of this track, even though it's not too long, I like the fact that she references both Elvis Presley and James Dean. She's kind of giving her lover is giving those vibes with in her opinion. So that's kind of cool. I like Moonlight. It's not one that I don't. It's not one that I listen to very much, but it is very nice to open the album. It sets the nice tone, although it's not really. It doesn't really follow the danger theme. I will say that's kind of a weakness of that, but I mean it's fine as an opener. Not too bad. I like it. And then the second one is a big single. This is Dangerous Woman. This is the one of the big tracks. And I love this song. This is amazing. My favorite part of this is actually the guitar solo, which I'm sure is a common opinion, but I love that part. It blends so well with her vocals, and then it brings us right back to those. So I think it's great. This is a pop rock. It's mostly just a rock track with a little bit of pop sound. It's great. Also has a little bit of an R&B feel, and it's really awesome. I love the line where she references the taste, the flavor, because I'm a taker, I'm a giver, and it's only nature, and I live for danger. I love that whole flow. That whole part of it is amazing. It just sounds great. And this whole track is fantastic. Definitely one of my favorites for sure. It is a banger, and it leads us into Be All Right, which is the third track. This is an R&B house jam. This one is definitely a little slower, but I'm a big fan of the instrumental for this one. It's really nice. It has almost this 90s house feel. It's great. And a couple of the lyrics that I like are Midnight Shadows kind of starts us off. And I also like when she mentions that finding love is a battle. I just think that's really nice. And I also like when she mentions hard times being golden. I think that's pretty true in life because hard times make you a better person, more than not. So I think that's great. Lovely track. I don't know if it's in my top five. I think it's just barely in the top. I think it's like number six for me. It's like there's so many great tracks on this. It Be All Right is amazing. I think it should have been a single for sure. That leads us Into You, which is the next big single, and this is a banger. This is almost a disco dance jam, and it's really, really powerful. It's really intense, and it's a fantastic track. My favorite part of this is actually the line where she says, "So, baby, let's keep it secret, a little bit scandalous and a little bit dangerous." And that kind of plays into the themes of this album, which are danger, love, and finding a purpose. And I love that line or that whole verse. And I think it's great. And I also like when she says, "So name a game to play, and I'll roll the dice." I think that's great too. Into You is amazing. Definitely a favorite of mine for sure. All these opening ones are very nice, and that leads us into Side to Side, which is another banger. This is definitely one of my favorites. It might be my favorite. It might be. I think it might be my favorite. This is probably the most different track. This is featuring Nicki Minaj, so the first of their collabs, and it is a big single, and it's very reggae, tropical, house influenced, and that's what I love about it. It's very different from all these. One thing that I love about this album, we'll get to the at the end, is all these songs all live in the same world, but they're all different vibes. That's what I would like about this whole project. And Side to Side is definitely probably the most sexual song on here. It's not in your face though. She's talking about, soreness after sex, but it's sort of funny. It's a fun song. You don't have to think too hard about it. It is fairly sexual, but it's not in your face. It's not super explicit. But even though there is some language, which I don't mind because Nicki's on here, my favorite part of this song is actually Nicki's entire verse. I think it's amazing. It's just a great flow. And I also like when Ari mentions a bad reputation. I think that's great. And she also mentions wanting to rock with your body. Um, I think, I'm assuming the lover that she means. Great song. Might be my favorite on the album. We'll have to see. And then that leads us into Let Me Love You, which is another banger. This one's a more slow jam. This is another feature with Lil Wayne. He comes in later on the track, and this is definitely an R&B hip hop vibe with some electro. It's great. I love this track. This is definitely in my top 5. Actually top 3 because of the vibe. It's very intimate, but it has a great back and forth with Ari and Wayne. I think they just trade verses really well. I'm a big fan of a couple of these lines where she begins by saying, "I just broke up with my ex. Now I'm out here single. I don't really know what's next." And I just think that's great. It tells a little bit of a story. And yeah, I think it's amazing. I love Little Wayne's part at the near the end. His voice is a little computerized, it's a little bit auto-tuned, but it doesn't ruin the song. I think it fits him, and he fits this track. It's probably the most underrated track on there. I think it's just fantastic. Big fan of this song. It grew on me a little bit, but now I'm a big fan. And that leads us into Greedy, which is probably the most anthem like song. It has a little bit of a gospel feel, but it is definitely a R&B disco song with some pop influence. And I'm a big fan of this. This is definitely in my top 5. This is fantastic. I'm trying to think of other words. Great track. And I like my favorite part of this is both the beat and also the 80s vibe. It has this 80s dance feel to it, which I really like. And my favorite lyric of this is actually, "Baby, you got lucky because you're rocking with the best." And I like when she says, "I ain't talking money, I'm just physically obsessed. And you know that I'm greedy for love." I think those lines are just great. And it's just, I don't know, she's almost kind of braggadocious, but in a fun way. It's just a very fun track. I'm a big fan of Greedy. It grew on me a lot, but now it's a favorite. It's great. Definitely a highlight for me. And then we slow it way down with Leave Me Lonely. It's got Macy Gray. I think this is the second to last feature. And this is not my favorite. This is the part of the album where it kind of slows down a little bit. It's a soulful duet, sort of ballad, more of a duet between them. And it's a beautiful song. It's just not one that I come back to, but it is very powerful. I will say it's a very powerful song. somewhat emotional. They both have great voices, and it's kind of a nice contrast. Um, the lyrics here, I like Dangerous Love. That's a nice little callback. And Ari mentions, is it love when you stole my peace of mind? She's kind of asking that. That's kind of cool. I like it. It's definitely not a favorite, kind of a least favorite, just because I'm not a huge fan of duets or ballads. Like, I don't know, they're kind of hit and miss for me. But regardless, great song. And then that leads us into the last single, Every Day, featuring Future. This is the last feature. And this is definitely a different vibe. This is more electro pop trap. And at first, Future only sings the everyday part of the chorus, but then he has a verse near the end. I really like it. Everyday, it's a good song. Definitely not a favorite. It's among my least favorites, but it's not doing anything bad. It's just not one that I come back to very often. But I think it's great. Really nice. And then the next one is one that I definitely love now. It's called Sometimes, and it's really nice. This one is more of a pop soul vibe. Great song. I like it a lot. Um, it's a little basic instrumentally, which I think kind of holds it back, but I do like it. It's definitely not a favorite, but it's not a least favorite either. So it's like in the middle. It's like kind of neutral. I like it. Definitely one I'm feeling. The next one is I Don't Care, and this is definitely a ballad. It's one that I kind of think is forgettable, to be honest. It's one of the ones I don't care for. I don't I don't know. If you like it, that's great. It's just kind of a weaker track. I don't get much from this song. One of the few Ariana songs I just don't like. I don't it doesn't do much for me. Like I've listened to it a couple times. It's pretty lame. Not bad. Just it's just not that special to me. So I don't have much to say on that one. Next one is Bad Decisions. This one is pretty special to me. Great song, definitely underrated. And this is an EDM hip hop track. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think is this the first song that Ariana did with an F bomb? I could be wrong. It has one F bomb in it. It's pretty early. I'm not sure if this is the first, but it just seemed like it was for me. Great song, great vibe. I like the feel of it. It has a nice beat, and it's pretty enjoyable. I do like it. And it leads us into Touch It, which is definitely EDM with synth pop. Ah, I don't like this song. I don't hate it. It's like I don't care. I don't care about it, to be honest. Like I just don't love it. It's like one of the weakest. I think it's my least favorite of this whole project. I don't. I'm not a big fan of it. Like again, if you like it, great, cool, that's good. I just don't. I don't see much to it. It just doesn't do much for me. It's not bad. Just one that I don't love. I don't skip it. I just I don't come back to it. But the second to last track, this is definitely honestly this is definitely in my top 5. I think it's number 2 or 3. New Better Forever Boy. This is a double track. It's got two songs mixed together, and it's kind of hard to explain the genre. This is almost it's got R&B obviously, but it's also electro pop with deep house. It kind of switches vibes because New Better is kind of a shorter track, and then Forever Boy, it kind of in the middle of these two tracks, it has this great musical breakdown and instrumental. It's just gorgeous. I love the way this track sounds. It is excellent. I love the contrast between these two because they're very different tracks, and I just like the switch up between them. I think they go great together. I think it was a great choice for Ariana to put them together into one track. I think that was a great choice, and it came out better for it. Um, this is the longest song on the album. This is 5 minutes. I think again. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is this the longest track that Grande has done, or is there a longer song than this? I'm assuming this is the longest track she's done. I don't know, but I'm just going off of this album. This 5 minutes, so it's pretty long, but it tells a great two great stories, in my opinion. It has a great flow, a great sound, and I love the fact that it switches up and it's really engaging. I'm a big fan of this song. It's really great. If you haven't listened to this album or this song, I'd give it a shot. I think there's a like an unreleased demo with part two. Could be wrong, but I think there's another part of it. But yeah, New Better Forever Boy. Bravo. It's fantastic. Great track. Great track. And then the last one is the closer, Thinking About You. This one, it's okay. It's pop with a little bit of R&B. Could be wrong about that. But yeah, Thinking About You, it's okay. It's decent. I get enough from it. The beat is nice and it's pretty simple compared to the other tracks, but it's a good enough closer. I think she's had better closers, such as Break Up with Your Girlfriend on Board. I think that's a better closer, but that's just me. Thinking About You, great vibe. It's nice to listen to, easy on the ears, has a good vibe, and a good song. Good way to end it. But that's about it. I mean, Dangerous Woman, amazing piece of work, to be honest. Great presentation. Um, I think it was a great era. It's definitely in my favorite eras from her. I think it's either number two or three in terms of Ariana eras. I think Ariana albums. It's definitely I would rank Dangerous Woman in in the third place for sure for me, just because I like my everything and Thank You Next more. But that's subject to change because I'm not done with all of her work. So maybe it will change. But I think Dangerous Woman is honestly really great. It's an awesome project. I'm a big fan of this one. I'm glad I gave it a chance. Glad I bought it and listened to it. I will say, I think it's a little long. I think it runs a little bit too long. I think maybe cutting it down 5 or 10 minutes could have been maybe 8 or 9 minutes. Like cutting it down a little bit would have been ideal for me, but it's not too bad. It's a great length, and it's almost an hour, so that's a good amount. And top five, I would definitely say Side to Side is my favorite. Then Let Me Love You. Then New Better Forever Boy. And let's see. Dangerous Woman will be number five. And then it's a tie between Into You. You know, I'm gonna go with Be Alright. I'm gonna Be Alright. That's number four for my favorite. So that's my top five. And let me know what your top five are. And that, I mean, that's about it. I think it's great. Dangerous Woman, I would probably rank a 9 out of 10. The reason I say 9 is because I feel like I Don't Care should be off of this. I think Touch It should leave. Thinking About You is decent. That's one that can stay. Leave Me Lonely is a least favorite. Not a skip, but it's not one that I come back to. So just those songs I don't love, but everything else is firing. It's all pop bangers, pretty much. And all these sounds are just so interesting. Like Dangerous Woman is like rock, and then you've got like, Into You, which is like, this great disco beat, and obviously Side to Side is so different. Be Alright, Let Me Love You. I mean, there's just so many great flavors musically, and it just sounds so different. Like each song is different from the rest. It's not the same. I think that's what I love the most about this project is each song has its own feel, its own flavor, its own vibe, but they're all living in this dangerous woman world, which I just think is great. A fun fact: this album was actually supposed to be called Moonlight, based on the opener, but she decided to change it to Dangerous Woman because she felt like that was a more powerful title, and I agree. I think it's a better title, and it fits the era better. So, yeah, big fan of Dangerous Woman. I think it's one of her best projects. Not my favorite, but it's in my top three. So it's definitely up there for sure. But what do you think of Dangerous Woman? Do you like the era? Do you think it's too sexual? Do you think there could have been better music on here? What do you think of the era? What is your favorite Ariana Grande era? Let me know below. And also, what is your favorite Ariana Grande song or collaboration? And what do you think of her new work? And what do you think of this album? Do you think it's a good piece of her work, or do you think it's terrible and should be forgotten about? Let me know below. I love this album. It's great. Highly recommend listening to it. Honestly, I didn't get into it in 2016. Kind of wish I did because I probably would have been a fan even back then. I think it's aged really well. It's pretty iconic and it's lasted pretty well. Among her albums, I think either Sweetener or Dangerous Woman, it's like one of those two is the most popular. Obviously, Thank You Next is also up there. But yeah, I mean, that's all I have to say. I think it's an amazing piece of work. I think it's a great looking album. I think the aesthetic and the costuming was really cool. It's a nice, unique touch for a pop, album, and it's got a nice variety. I'm a big fan of it. So glad I had the chance to cover this one. My next album review will be Eiffel 65's Europop from, I think it was 1999, I believe. So stay tuned for that. And my next Ariana review will either be yours truly or it'll be my everything. It'll be one of those two. So let's be on the lookout for that. And thank you for watching. Thank you for your support. Thank you for listening. And let me know what you think of Ariana Grande's music down below. And that's about it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks for your support, and I'll talk to you later. Have a good one. Take care.